talk about possibilities. What you think is possible in the world is dictated by your worldview. Your worldview is this framework in which you interpret and you give meaning to reality. Now, your brain naturally makes meaning of reality because it needs to do so. Otherwise, imagine all of the input of the trillions of stimuli that you're subjected to at any given moment. Imagine being a newborn again, opening your eyes to everything is confusing data. At some point, you realize that those eyes and that mouth must be your mom, and therefore the source of care and food and shelter. And that process of meaning making doesn't stop. We soon learn that a particular structure is a chair. We soon learn that there's some behaviors that are appropriate for school and not outside of school. And as we evolve as human beings, then those constructs get more and more complicated, and we tend to, once we acquire them, not question them. And it becomes very interesting how those constructs that we make in reality become our limitations. This weekend I was laughing because a friend of mine who's extremely liberal, for example, she insisted on my husband not wearing a cap inside the house. And I was like, why? Oh, because you don't do that. You can't wear a cap inside the house. And of course, that is a law of good manners that has existed for a long time, but who say that that is actually true? What makes a cap unsuitable to be worn inside the house? So such a belief is actually a limitation for action, because what if you do want to wear a cap inside the house? What if you want to show up to a ball wearing hunting gear? What makes it so that you can't do that? It's only social construct that says that when you go to a ball, you have to dress in a particular way. So these beliefs and social agreements that we have, we carry them with us all the time, and we're not aware of them consciously until we examine them. And we tend to examine them only when they're not working for us. So a example would be one social construct that has been operating in our society for a long time, at least in our Western, society, would be that we have to be successful. And what success means nowadays is being powerful and rich and well-known, famous. So it's the pursuit of power, money, and fame. And that might be working well for some people, but I find that for the majority of people it isn't. That links up to another social construct which says that we have to compete in a world of scarcity where there isn't enough for everybody. The resources are limited, and we have to find our place in that hierarchy and try to be at the top. Now, the problem with that, of course, is that if you're at the top, you might be sort of satisfied with yourself, but you're always concerned that you're going to slip back down. If you're in the middle, you're never good enough. Like, you haven't got the good enough job. You're not making enough money. You don't have the good looking enough physique. You're not fit enough. You are not producing enough. So that middle of the ranks is very problematic. And the bottom of the rank, you feel like a nobody, and that you don't have a contribution to make to the world, and therefore that leads to depression and anxiety. Actually, everybody's suffering from depression and anxiety in that hierarchy. So my question to you would be, if you're stuck and you don't know where to go, if you feel unsatisfied, if you feel like your life has no meaning, I invite you to consider that there's nothing wrong with you, but that you might need to examine what your assumptions are as to who you are and where you should be right now. It requires a deep dwelling into what you're taking for granted, what your assumptions are as to how the world operates. This is a idea that was very well developed in a book, in a wonderful book. It was written in 2000, and it was a bestseller back then. Book written by Rosamund Stone Zander and Ben Zander. She was a philosopher and a psychologist, and he's still alive. He's an orchestra conductor. And what they did was examine that idea that we live in a world of competition and analyze whether it was working for them, for the clients, for the orchestra, and came up with an alternative. What if we could live in a world of contribution where who we are as people, with our skills, with our values, with what we like doing, was necessary for the world as a whole? And if by being this calling of who we really are, we will be contributing the most to society and to the planet. That book has got 12 practices, which I think is beautiful because you can remember the name of the practice and go there when you're in a state of confusion to think differently and therefore find alternative solutions to the problems that are blocking us. You can only find certain solutions when you're seeing things from one worldview, but then once you look at them from a different angle, other possibilities arise. So my invitation to you is to acquire the book and either read it or listen to the audio. I find the audio is really good because it was narrated by the authors. And an extension to that invitation is to attend one of my retreats. There's one coming up now in April called The Art of Possibility. And we will be learning those practices, only the first 6 of them, through embodied exercises, through discussions, through actually seeing what that looks like in real life, as opposed to a concept in a book. I like embodied things because we live in the world in a body, therefore everything that we experience is done through the body. So there it is, there's my invitation. You can find the link to the retreat on my website. Bye for now.